Hi everyone, and welcome to the first tutorial in in basically about a four-part series on how to create your magazine document for the University of Phoenix VCT 360. We will be using InDesign for this course to set up your individual project and for your interactive brochure for your learning team project. In this first tutorial, I would like to show you a little bit about InDesign, how to get your document all set up and ready for your design. We'll have different different parts in the series of the tutorials following each week. You'll be creating the magazine over probably about the next 4 weeks, creating different pages, table of contents, covers, advertisements, and things like that. So let's take a look about InDesign. I am doing this tutorial using CS6. However, you are definitely welcome to use CC. So I would not go any lower than probably CS6. I mean, CS5 would be okay as well. But most likely you're going to be using either CS6 or CC. You won't notice too many changes in the interface in InDesign between CS6 and CC. The only thing that you need to keep in mind when working in your learning team is that CS6 cannot open a CC document. So just keep that in mind. See what everybody's working with and go from there. So we're going to go ahead and make a new document. This window is going to pop up for you. We're just going to do print for right now, so we'll use the default. Number of pages. Eventually you're going to have you'll have your cover, 2 spreads, and an ad. So you're looking at about 6 pages total. But I do want to show you how to insert more pages. So number of pages is 1. We're going to do facing pages, and I'll explain what those are in a little bit here. And then the width and the height is set to letter. This is picas. Picas is a different measurement. So for instance, if we want to put 8.5, just to make sure, it's 8.5 IN. You have to put in the IN to change over to picas. And I'll show you how to change the measurements here in a minute if you're more comfortable working in inches. However, if we read our specifications, we actually need our document to be 7.5. So I'm going to do 7.5 IN by 10 IN, and that's in the instructions. The gutter is the amount of space between columns. We don't have any columns at this point. Margins. The margins is the area around the page, and margins are important. And normally I put them at 0.25, so 1/4 of an inch. If you keep the lock on, this chain link here, it will change all of the margins. You can check out more presets by just clicking on the more options. The bleed is the area around the page where you'll be able to trim it. So typically a bleed is pretty nice. So maybe if I just want to put a bleed of 0.25, this is not required, but I will show you what the bleed is. And then we can do the same with the slug, so you can see the different, we'll go ahead and put them on all. See how if the chain or the link is not linked, it doesn't do them all. So the bleed and the slug is an option that you can choose. It's not required for the assignment. Just make sure that your width and your height is set to 7.5 IN for the width, and height is 10 IN. You have to put the end, since we have not changed the way it's measured from picas to inches, so make sure that IN's there. And we do want them portrait. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And here is my document. You can see that this is the margin line. This is the actual document size, and here's my slug and bleed because I put them at the same one. Really, since we are being very customizable here, we would probably want the slug and the bleed to be the same page size, but sometimes you do make it a little bit bigger in case the printer has to cut. To change your measurements, if you right click on the ruler, you can go from picas to inches. And you have to do this on both sides of the ruler. So if you do want to change it, because you're more familiar with inches, which most people are, you definitely just have to just right click on the ruler and set it to inches. You can also do this underneath InDesign preferences and then units and increments. So you can change what it's measured in. So a little bit of a crash course here. You can change the view. I typically will use typography, however, essentials you can tell that I have been playing with it because I do have some of my panels pulled out. You can definitely move panels around and things like that. If I reset my essentials, the essentials just means these are the most commonly used um, tools of the trade. I like typography just because it cleans it up just a little bit. It gives me more of the type features. InDesign is really known for type and using type. So if I want to get started and kind of like learn my way around, here's my type tool. Now one would think, oh, I could just go out here and click. Well, you can't. You have to make a text box and then you could type. Now we're going to use it kind of similar to Word where we can highlight it up in the panel at the top. These are the fonts that I've used last. Here's all my other fonts. I can also do this in the panel over on the side where it's the character. So I can bump size up. I can change it. I can make it wider if I want. I can change the amount of space between the lines. So if you're not familiar with some of these tools, I would highly suggest just sort of mousing over them. It does tell you what they are. So if I wanted something vertically shifted, I can change the font color at the top. I can give it a stroke. I can move it around. I can size my text box just by double clicking, and that will size my text box perfectly to the text. I'm on my selection tool, hotkey V, so I can move my text around. I can position it, so there's X and Y, there's width and height. So if I want to move this, see how I can shift it just with my X and Y values. So I could do something that's pixel perfect. So you can see how I can get it right on 0.25 if I wanted to, which puts it right in the corner. I mean, we're going to be going through all the different tools as we start to set up our document. I just wanted to get you a little familiar with how to move stuff around, how to get your pages set up. So if I go to my pages, here is my first page. To add a page, I can just use the icon at the bottom. This is what they call a spread. You can see pages 2 and 3 are what they call a spread. They're side by side, so you can lay them out together. And it's typically when you write up a magazine, the pages are side by side. They typically match, have the same content, and look cohesive. I'm going to show you the final product. just going to go ahead and open in Recent. So here is my example. This is what I've been working on. Here is my example of the magazine that we're going to be creating. Again, content is completely up to you. I just decided that I wanted to do some content that I was really interested in and I wanted to try. I was also teaching the Photoshop class at the same time as this one, so I was looking at different tutorials to help out students, and I really fell in love with a lot of the fantasy type of art. So I named my magazine. I came up with some sort of tagline. I found images I wanted to use and edited them. And we'll go over that in the next tutorial. So for the first assignment, you'll be making your cover page, so the cover of the magazine. Then in the next week, you'll be doing 2 pages, a spread, or 2 individual pages. I really did mine more as a spread, but you could definitely do individual pages. And then the last week of the assignment, you're creating a advertisement for one of the virtual organizations, and I've done a lot with Colder, so I was anxious to make them an advertisement. So you'll just keep adding pages and see how you're about 6 pages deep for your total magazine. In the next tutorial, we'll be talking about how to get this set up. What are some tips, tricks, and techniques that we can use? Thanks for tuning in, and let me know if you have any questions.